Hey, everyone. Thank you for joining and welcome to the first episode of the Aiden's Books podcast for parenting and bonding through children's books. So, as I said, this is the first episode of our live video podcast. The awesomeness about live viewing is we can take question and answers at the end. So, if you have any questions for the author or for me, just drop them into the comments and we'll get to them as soon as we can. Um, so thank you so much for being here. This podcast will show live to our group members, and then we'll release it to other platforms as well to try to reach as many parents as possible. So our purpose and message is simple. Books can transform homes and strengthen our bonds with our children. This podcast was created to spotlight the authors behind the books that make this magic happen, and to provide parents with a behind the scenes look of the intention of the author and hopefully leave you all empowered to up your game with reading time. So this episode, we're joined by the author who created the magic of Monster Kids Academy. Welcome, Marquiste Boyce.
Hello, everyone, and thank you very much, and thank you for having me, Quinn. Glad to be here today.
Yes, I'm glad you're here. So how are you?
I'm doing great, doing pretty good. Can't complain. It's a pretty busy day. This is one of those things that at the end of the day, now I get a chance to kind of just unwind doing some of my favorite stuff, and that's just
Yeah,
kind of talking about books in this case because I am a huge book head. So I get
yeah.
the opportunity to sit down with you guys and talk about books.
Right? I can talk about books all day. So hopefully this doesn't go on too long. We're going to be respectful of all of your time. Don't worry. So, author Marquiste Boyce, he created Monster Kids Academy to help explore how to teach children simple life lessons in a fun manner. His book, it's a series, and it's awesome. So let's get into the book. Tell us about your first book in the series, Marquise.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so Monster Kids Academy was a book series that I created back in the beginning of like 2014, actually. And at the time, I was not an author by trade at all. I never actually written anything
Oh,
before,
wow.
but I had just at the time kind of heard about Amazon and their Kindle publishing and how you could actually kind of create ebooks.
Yeah.
So I was actually just looking for additional streams of income. So I was thinking, okay, maybe writing would be something that I would actually enjoy doing because I used to always like writing short stories and actually even like poetry back in the day.
Okay.
So I kind of came up with the idea of Monster Kids Academy just off of the concept of I was thinking about what was something that was unique to me because I kind of wanted to write for children and something that was unique to me that I could probably talk about and expand on. And that for me was childhood bullying because it was a topic that I was very familiar with because I was always kind of like that nerd kid growing up. So
Yeah.
bullying was something that I kind of experienced a lot. And then as I got older, the dynamics of course changed with my classmates, so now it's kind of like fun to talk about, maybe sometimes reminisce. I don't even want to use the term fun, but how you used to pick on me in high school. But I think as I got older, I needed a way to vent. And
Yeah.
for me, writing was that way to, kind of, vent.
Got you. Thank you for that. So, of course, I read your book, and like I said before, I completely loved it. Milo is the main character in this book, and it's a middle grade book, chapter book, and it's like sci-fi based. That was really interesting. Milo's a lovable and relatable character. For those of you that haven't read it yet, he's 11 years old. He's also a soccer player, and that's relatable, to a lot of our kids who are in sports. And he just moved to a brand new place. He's going to a brand new school. So, that hits on topic number one our kids are experiencing right now is a lot of change going on. And so, what I loved about the book is, like many middle grade novels, is that we saw a huge shift in perspective for Milo, especially as he went through bullying and he was dealing with being different, and seeing friends around him, people around him that were different. So, who did you have in mind when you wrote the series?
So actually, I kind of had myself in mind.
Yeah.
I kind of identified very strongly to the character of Milo,
Mm.
because as a kid, I was kind of in a similar situation, kind of like moving to a new area in a sense, or going to a different school, and then just trying to fit in,
Yeah.
trying to find those pockets of friends, trying to, see who I can mesh with, things of that nature. And then also just missing home and kind of having that feeling. So I think I just pulled a lot from that when I built Milo out.
Okay, so you told us how you came up with like the idea behind it. Were there particular specific situations that you can think about in your life that inspired the book?
Yes, definitely. So
Mhm.
each one of the books actually is kind of related to a specific event in my life,
Okay.
and then I kind of told the book around the story. So the first one is just kind of like, going to a new school and kind of trying to blend in. And
Mhm.
also a lot of times when you go to new schools, many times the new kids always get picked on and bullied on.
Mhm.
So, a lot of the term of the book for the first book was just kind of like trying to blend in. And then, with the second book, that was, all about a big dance. And I had a fear of dancing growing up. And I always wanted to go to dances, but I never would go because I couldn't dance. And there was one particular incident where a friend of mine, when I was in like the seventh grade, he actually helped me learn how to dance.
Okay.
So we got these seventh graders, teaching each other, showing me how to dance or whatnot. So that's where the second book idea kind of came from.
Okay.
And yep, and then the third one was really just about honesty and being honest when faced with difficult situations and difficult decisions that you may be faced with, and also
Okay.
coming clean about certain things as well when it doesn't maybe suit you beneficially as a kid.
Got you. Thanks for sharing that. That's interesting. I remember dancing. I went. I didn't dance. I couldn't dance, and I didn't, but I still went.
Yeah, it took me a while to really get my nerve up to finally go, but I did, and it was okay. I
Got
didn't
you.
die.
Yep. And you had a friend teach you. And that's
Yep.
interesting because in this book, one of my ultimate favorite characters is Vince. Because when Milo was being bullied, oftentimes, in life we have a guide or we have a friend that is just always there for us. And Vince really showed himself true in your book. And as soon as Vince came um, into the scene, I knew that he was going to be amazing because he was kind of appointed, right, to be his guy because he was new
Mhm.
in school.
Yep.
And he seemed to just like take that on, like, yeah, like this is my job to
Yeah, like, I
protect
got
it.
nothing else better to do. I'm
Yeah,
just gonna take the new kid under my wing,
yeah,
So
that was really good. We all want friends like that. So you told us about the guy in your life that taught you how to dance. What about in the first book with bullying? Did you have a friend that kind of came to your aid?
I did actually. I did have, friends that we would actually kind of depend on each other because a lot of times when kids get bullied, sometimes they get bullied in packs,
Yeah.
So it was a situation like that to where, if you have a friend and he's in a situation of maybe getting bullied, you're not gonna go let him be by himself. Or, you guys
Yeah.
are always gonna kind of hang out together. So it was kind of that situation, kind of had like a little, a clique of people getting bullied, but also kind of having each other's back.
Hmm. Good, good. So, the reason why we're talking about bullying tonight is not only because of Marquise's book, is because it's so relatable for a lot of us here, in the group and that are watching. As we're raising children, even if we have babies or toddlers, it's a fear that we have, that our kids are going to grow up and be bullied. They're going to be a bully, or they'll just be a bystander in a situation where somebody's being bullied. And we want to know that the kid that we send, that we talk to in our home, is also a good kid out in the world. So if they see somebody being bullied, they know enough to be able to act on that
Mhm.
and help to protect the person who's being bullied, or at least go grab an adult. And just to give you guys like some information around bullying, I pulled some data from stopbullying.gov that shows that 20% of middle schoolers, because this book is, for middle school kids, will be bullied in school. That's 1 in 5. That's 1 in 5, children. So when you think about that, and 40% of the time, it happens in the hallway. Like that's the location that, most bullying, or 40% of it takes place. So there's somebody around, right? And if that's our kid that's in a situation, we want them to be able to have the words to express that that's not right, or be able to be brave enough to go and get an adult and, speak out against that kid that's doing it. And so books like Marquise that that are talk about bullying and talk about these situations, give our kids, scenarios that they can relate to. And that's why I really, really loved your book. Um, and so even, most of our kids are virtual schooling, but
Yes.
cyberbullying stats are not far behind from, the 1 in 5 from in-person schooling. So when you wrote this book, because it really resonated with me, as I'm raising a 6-year-old boy, what message were you hoping to send to parents and children with your book?
Definitely, just raise good adults, and that kind of starts as a kid, just kind of learning empathy, and especially a lot with my last book, honesty is the best policy. That just kind of be truthful to yourself, be truthful to your friends around you as well, and also don't always feel like you have to try to fit in. It's fine to be different. I think that's the biggest thing that I wanted to take away from the book series, is that it's fine to be different, and that's why the kids themselves are kind of based after monsters in a sense. It's kind of a representation of going to a school where you may have different kids of different ethnicities. These
Mhm.
kids are kind of in their own case different ethnicities, because they're ghosts, they're vampires, and some of them hang together in cliques. But it's okay to like I said, be yourself, and
Yeah.
also not try to be something that you're not.
hmm Yeah, that's really good. And that's one thing I picked up in your book is the fact that they were monsters. And it was like a culture shock for him, for Milo, when he went to the new school. And I experienced that myself. When I was in middle school, I went to one school that when I went to high school, it was like a whole different environment. And, it's trying to like find that place where you can fit in and discovering that it's okay to be different. So we talked about Vince a little bit, and we talked about how he was assigned to be like Milo's guide, right? And he took
Hmm.
that job like really seriously, and that was good. Bystanders, as you guys know, are play a really important role in bullying, just making sure that they step up. And we know that bullying, in order to solve it or reduce it, it takes like a holistic approach. Teachers, parents, adults, students to be able to step in and really, tackle the problem head on.
Hmm.
So I love how in your book, at the end, not to give too much of it away, but the school stepped in, and it was such a hilarious scene when they did step in, and the way that the kids like tried to solve it themselves, but then
Hmm.
they needed the adults to step in. I love that as well. So is was your situation like similar? Did the school step in for you as well?
Yeah, in a sense, this was kind of like related in around an incident kind of happened in sixth grade, and at the time, I had a really good relationship with one of my teachers or whatnot.
Mhm.
So, I was kind of I don't want to say use the word funneling a lot of information to him, but I think that I had a good relationship with him, where I wasn't scared to actually talk about what was going on and how it was
Yeah,
affecting my friends, and
yeah,
because I wasn't scared to talk to him, he was able to kind of like help ease the situation a little bit. I felt, at least that's how I felt from my 6-year-old brain, that things weren't
mhm.
as bad. And also, he was also kind of working behind the scenes, talking to our parents as well, trying to
That's
figure
good.
out why we weren't meshing together. So he was
Mhm.
trying to fix it, without us being called, snitches, because that's one of the worst things that, for the no bullying campaign is to, stop snitching mentality.
Yeah.
Because if you don't speak up, then somebody is going to suffer for it. So it's one of those things that you definitely want to be able to feel comfortable about speaking up as well too. So that's why I feel like I felt really good about having that relationship with a teacher.
Yeah, that's really good. That relationship with the teacher and, having the words to speak up. And, I have to say, because this is a reading group and, when we give kids the words through reading, because we're teaching them so many words and ways to express themselves. And I posted in the group today about that emotional learning those words that express their emotions is really important in them just being able to say it out loud. Because sometimes
Hmm.
our kids, and we saw Milo in the book, when his dad asked how his day was, and he wasn't able to express it in that moment. You wonder why that was. Was he afraid, or did he just not know how to say it? And that's why, I feel like books and reading to our kids is so important because it gives them the words that they need in order to do it. I'm
Hmm.
so glad that teacher was there for you. Is he still because sometimes like we'll find our teachers from back in the day, like on
Hmm.
Facebook stuff. Do you still have contact with him at all?
Yeah, actually, I do. I'm actually
That's
teachers with a
cool.
lot of friends on Facebook. Think the one thing about good with Facebook is I've been able to keep in touch with a lot of my teachers because they are the giants I've been able to learn from. So
Yeah, that's awesome. And we see teachers go above and beyond, especially in this time every day. So it's cool when we can back up and, go back and say thank you for what you did.
yeah,
So,
because you learn from it. You might not have known it at the time period, but as you got older, and then when you're also responsible for other people as well, and you're like, wow, okay, they did a lot.
yes, yes. So, is there anything else about your book that you want to share with us that maybe we missed in this conversation?
Well, one thing is I want to say definitely be on the lookout because it's actually been about 6 years since I published for this particular book series, but I do have a fourth one that I'm planning on to be coming out with next year. And I wanted to
Mhm,
kind of revisit some topics that's also been sensitive, and we kind of touched on a little bit earlier. It's
mhm.
about cyberbullying. So kind of think AOL comes to Monster Kids Academy.
Got you. And I'll put this resource back up for you guys again because there are some on stopbullying.gov. Just it gives some great resources for parents and also for you to talk to your kids, about what's going on. And if you think there's something going on with your child, just having these resources just like laying around the house or on the fridge. If they don't want to talk to you, they can call and talk to somebody. You know what I mean? Just having somebody to talk to is excellent. And you touched on the cyberbullying. I came across a couple weeks ago on the FBI site. It was broken down by grades,
Mhm.
and it gave like a quiz for kids to be able to practice safe surfing on the internet and be able to recognize like cyberbullying and who to reach out to for help. So I'll share that resource in the group. I'll check the comments, see if there's any questions. So let me see. Thank you all so much for joining tonight.
Yep, and thanks again, Quinn, for having me. I definitely appreciated the chat.
No problem. All right. Middle schoolers will love the help from these books. Yes, the heart behind the story. If you guys are going to fall in love with Milo, because I did, and especially Vince, we all want our kids to have events in our lives. Yes, important. So, where can we find your books?
So you can actually find them by going to the website is monsterkids.academy. And also that you can find them on Amazon by just searching for Monster Kids Academy and you can see the series there as well. I
Yeah,
have it currently in ebook form, but I also have physical copies of the book as well. And it will be on audio version next year.
wonderful. Thank you so much. See, there's a smart. Teresa said that is crazy and such a sad things that kids deal with. So true. Um, yes, Teresa, for kids to be able to say it out loud. So we answered all the questions. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. We
Thank
really
you.
appreciate you. Thank you, Marquise, for sharing some insight behind your book. Um, check it out. Go to Monster Kids, Academy. I'll put the link in the group so that you can check out his book and the whole series. I finished the first one and knew that I was excited for the second one to come because he touches on more on differences and he leads into a girl in the story who is dealing with some anxiety, right? At the end,
Yes.
her name is Julie,
Yeah,
and
Julie.
she just wants to be invisible. So, that's a whole nother thing that we're dealing with in our households right now. So that was great. Anything else, Marquise?
No, that'll be all. Once again, I just want to say thanks again for having me on. And like I said, be on the lookout for the fourth book coming up soon. Because, like I said, I ended the story on a cliffhanger, and now I gotta send it on off on a good note.
Yes, you got to help us out. You can't leave us hanging. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining us tonight, and thank you for being my first guest. This was so exciting.
Thank
We
you.
hope you're welcome. Thank you, and we hope you all enjoyed. And as Aiden would say, who's not here, keep reading, and I'll catch you on the flip side. Have a good night.
Have a good night.